Welcome to Quora Anonymous. If this is your first time and you like the video, please like and subscribe. If you would like to read along, turn on closed captioning with the 3 dots in the upper right corner. Now, let's begin. What is your dirtiest sexual experience as an adult? It all started from October last year with a random friend request that I sent seeing her DP only. Was hoping that she just accept it anyhow. And she did. After the initial hi hello, we got into happenings of each other's life. I got to know that she is a wife of a government servant who has been kept as a helper by his officer at his home to assist the officer and his family. She was beautiful, sexy, what we call used to take good care of herself, and definitely was good at heart. I don't know how or what was the reason, but things happened so fast. At first we used to chat on FB only, then exchanged numbers and used to talk on phone for hours at a stretch. I do not know what made her like me, but she was so much into me. When I asked her once, she told me it is the way you speak your talks, your maturity is the reason why I leave everything aside to receive your call and listen to you. She used to run her own small business of ready-made garments. She once told me that nobody has ever understood me the way you have. Hearing it, I asked her, not even your husband? To which she replied, we live under the same roof, but never ever talk to each other. This made me more curious, or whatever you call it, but this gave me an idea of what she is going through. And I wanted to know more, and help her in any possible way. Later she revealed that it's been a decade since he has touched her intimately. When I asked her the reason, she told me that she don't allow him. And when she disclosed the reason behind her not allowing to touch, made almost everything clear to me. It was because he had an affair with the officer's wife, and also had abused her sexually in the initial days of her marriage. To the point where he used to tie her to the bed and use to satisfy himself in his own way. He was a drinker also. He used to do all that stuff after getting drunk. This was what she had been through. After knowing this, I realized that love is all that she is lacking and is in need of, and that I could give her. And probably this was the reason why she was so much into me. Now I was waiting for an opportunity to meet her anyhow. Because we had enough talks, enough chats. Chats and calls have their own limits. Meeting in person and being physically together has its own experience, and that was something for which both of us were waiting for. Luckily one day she told me that her family is going to her home state for her niece's marriage. She used to live in a joint family, so all of them were going barring her. She told me that everybody was insisting her to accompany, but she anyhow convinced them and is staying back. She used to live in Gurgaon and her native place was in Punjab. I understood what she's going to utter next. Before she could speak anything, I told her that I will be there. I asked the details like their date of departure and as to for how long they will be there. They were going for a week. As soon as they left their home, I left mine. She asked me to meet at a certain point where I reached, and she was already there to receive me. Once we recognized each other, she asked me to follow her, which I did. In a few minutes we reached her home. She entered and I followed. She locked the door. For a while both of us were standing near the door only and were looking at each other. None of us exchanged a word. We're just looking into each other's eyes. It was for the first time that I was with a girl or a lady all alone at home with whom I have such kind of bonding. And I knew what all is going to happen, where it all is heading. Maybe she also knew and was prepared for it, which I got to know later on. But thereafter, having looked at each other for a while, she asked, "Passande AI, did you like me?" And in response to it, I hugged her. It was my first hug of such kind. I was thinking of making her feel good, which she definitely felt, I think, but I myself felt so nice that I can't explain. It was a different feeling. I registered such feeling for the first time in my life. Then she made me sit on sofa. Brought water for me. There we chatted for a while, and then she took me to her room, which was upstairs. There we sat and got lost in our own world. I was so desperate to do everything, I don't know why. Whether it was in the era she also wanted the same. or because I was going to do all the stuff for the first time. We were hugging, cuddling, kissing, and doing everything which would lead us to ultimate thing. And as I proceeded to take her inners off, she stopped me, saying Abhi Tapori rat baki hey, the whole night is there. Hearing this I stopped. She wanted to do puja first as it was evening by then. And it was time for the puja. So we did the puja together. And later after having dinner we're back to our thing. She treated me in a very special way. Used to bring milk to bed in a glass every day after dinner before starting our deed. All the memories are still so fresh as if it all happened yesterday. We used to be in the kitchen together, making love while cooking. I tried to help her in kitchen by washing utensils while she was cooking, but she didn't allow me. She used to tease me sometimes by deliberately touching her hips, or I must say pressing them against my thing, when she used to bend to take anything in the kitchen. I used to eat all her lipstick as soon as she put it. I would sometimes put dal chawal on her breast while eating, and then would lick it. She used to enjoy everything. She was so happy the whole time till I stayed there. We were good in bed. Initially I ejaculated very early as I penetrated vagina for the first time in the past 22 years. But later after 2 to 3 more sessions it took reasonable time. I remember her saying, when I made her come for the first time, that ab bakabada ho ja hey, now the kid has grown up. She treated me like a husband for those 5 to 6 days and I her as a wife. As that was my only motive, to give her all that she has not received all her life from her husband in these days. I knew that it will not be enough for her, but at least she would have something to cherish for rest of her life. And I wanted to make most out of it. Which I did. And I'm happy about it. Once she told me in the kitchen, when I kissed on her neck, that, Kashe sa husband ho tatabat hai kayathi, if I had a husband like you then things would have been different. She once proceeded to press my feet when we were lying in bed and were about to sleep. To which I denied, but agreed when she insisted. I also knew that she also wants to feel everything in her own way, so I let her feel and fulfilled all her wishes for which she was asking for, wanted to do, or had a fantasy for. Once when I was sucking her boobs, and the right one was in my mouth, she asked me to bite it as hard as I could. This I couldn't comprehend at first, but not giving much thoughts to it, I did as she wanted, and bit it so hard that it was enough to leave mark as a memory and make her feel the pain or experience whatsoever she wanted to. Not so hard that my teeth cut through her soft and tender boob skin and cause any injury. On several occasions I was hit with the feeling of intense love from her side. Once we were in missionary and I was in the rhythm doing it slowly. At the same time kissing her on her forehead, lips, and everywhere on her chest, neck, behind her ears, sucking her tits and earlobes. Looking at her face and into her eyes, and suddenly she started crying. And said, Itna paya kroj to fur, kais jeepom geet mer bina, how would I live without you, if you will love me so very much. And that was the time when I realized how much love can influence others. How much power it has. And those tears were the indication that now I need to control myself. If I will keep generating love now, things can go out of hand. And it will be difficult to control them afterwards. And from there on I decreased it slowly. Consoled her. Made sure that she will be happy afterwards. Made her promise me that she won't repent, that I'm not with her, but instead would be grateful that we had such a wonderful time together. And so am I. It was my first experience of such kind, and couldn't have thought of better than this. Both of us made all of our fantasies real in that period of time. Tried few positions. Last was the doggy, with which our sexual ride came to an end. My lips were paining due to kissing and sucking. On the morning of 31st, I left her home as my train was at 10 AM. I didn't do anything intimate while returning. Morning was usual. She made breakfast for me. Packed few pair of this stuffed bread for the journey. After having breakfast, when I was washing my hands, she was standing in front of me at a distance and was looking at me. I asked her permission to leave. She granted verbally. I threw a splash or water on her face which drenched her face and breasts. Few drops reached her tummy, making way through her cleavage. She smiled and I left. This is my first answer on Quora. Pardon me if I commit any errors. I hate my mom and my brother. Now I may seem like the most horrible person on this planet talking shit about her family. Before judging me, please read the full answer. I'm shy, introverted girl with absolutely no self-confidence. Okay, so I'll be writing down few incidents which completely changed my life. The first incident took place when I was 5. My mom told me to write down all the odd numbers. I made a mistake and wrote one even number in between 2 odd numbers. Rest everything was correct. Instead of telling me where I went wrong, she simply dragged me by my arm and locked me inside the washroom. The washroom was as small as a cubicle and there was complete darkness inside. I was scared and petrified. I cried like hell. But she never opened the door. After few moments I stopped crying and sat there still scared and petrified. She opened the door 3 hours later. This incident will haunt me forever as now I suffer from claustrophobia. The second incident took place when I was 11. I woke up at 10 AM. I suffer from insomnia, so I usually sleep at 4 AM, and found my breakfast lying on the table next to me. I brushed my teeth and had the breakfast. Little did I know that it was for my brother. My mom was very angry after she found out that I ate my brother's food. She started slapping me and kicking me and hurting me for that mere mistake. From then I was afraid of making mistakes. The third incident took place when I was 16. I had scored 70 in physics in my pre-boards exam. The paper was really very tough. I was sad and disheartened. When I showed my marks to my brother and mom, they both insulted me like anything. They told me I was a failure and won't be successful in my life. I'm a total waste of money. I'm not intelligent enough to take up science. I should rather choose easier courses. I'm a loser. They even scolded and slapped me. The fourth incident took place when I was 17. It was Durga Puja. And we have a ritual that my mom won't cook for these 5 days. So obviously someone had to bring food from restaurant. My brother wanted to go out with friends, so he ordered me to bring food and I refused as I was sick and couldn't step out of the house. We started quarreling, but my mom stood there in complete silence. My brother slapped me and she didn't protest. 5. The fifth incident took place a few days ago. I was sick during my 12th board exams, and as a result my exams didn't go well. I scored 71% marks. My mom started cursing me and abusing me, that I'm a complete waste of money, good for nothing, loser, and that I will surely fail in my medical entrance test. In addition to these incidents, I was bullied, both mentally and physically, throughout my childhood. I was drained both mentally and physically. But I have learned to stand up for myself. I was involved in a toxic relationship. I suffered from depression. I get extremely nervous when I'm taking a test. I have trust issues with everyone. But finally I'm both mentally and physically strong. I maintain an image of a strong girl and my friends are afraid of me, especially boys. I'm terrified if someone tries to come near me, and as a result I push them away. Wife and I just moved into an apartment and lived across the hall from an older lady. She seemed friendly and was not bad looking. About a week after we moved in, the neighbor knocked on the door and presented my wife with a plate of cookies. I was at work, so my wife invited her in for coffee and they became acquainted. Her name was Joan, and she had recently separated from her husband. After coffee, Joan excused herself, but told my wife that if she needed anything to just knock. They both agreed to get together for lunch. When I got in from work, my wife told me about meeting Joan. Some time went by, and Joan and my wife had lunch a few times, and Joan opened up about her life. Joan said that she had been in a sexless marriage for the last 8 years and things were no good, so she decided to separate from her husband and move to this city. Joan said she was glad to have some friendly neighbors and hoped we could all get together sometime. My wife asked me if we could invite Joan for dinner some evening, and I said sure. A week later my wife called me and asked me to stop on the way home and pick up some wine because Joan was coming to dinner. I picked up several bottles because our supply was low anyhow. I get home and my wife was finishing the cooking. Soon Joan knocked on the door and I let her in. We sat and made some small talk, then ate dinner. Joan was enjoying the wine and I think my wife and her were matching glass for glass. Joan and my wife talked about decorating and things of that nature, so I offered to clean up the dinner dishes. As I was cleaning, my wife told me that she was going to Joan's apartment to look at a decorating idea and that I should join them when I finished. I went to Joan's apartment and knocked and was told to come in. When I walked in, I saw a nicely decorated living room, but the women were nowhere to be seen. I called out, and they said in unison to come to the bedroom. When I walked in the room, both women were naked and laying on the king-sized bed, obviously enjoying each other. I started to turn when Joan said to get naked and join them. I looked at my wife who smiled and said to hurry up. I got out of my clothes and laid on the bed. What followed was pure heaven. They both gave me a blowjob together and then they went down on each other. Joan produced some sex toys and the women took turns with them. The Joan pulled me on top of her and said she heard I was pretty good with my tongue. I showed her and my wife joined me. We all had a great time together. About 2 decades ago, I was 17 years old and my BF at the time and I decided to bunk one day and go for a movie. At that time, PVR cinemas had just started to come up, and their biggest draw was plush seats, dark halls which would be mostly empty during weekdays for English movies. This was of course, way before Marvel Studios had made English movies mainstream with the Avengers movies. Anyway, so we got into the cinema hall which was empty except for an old couple, seated in the middle. We waited for the lights to go out, and the ticket checker employees to leave. And then we immediately got started as the hall went dark. My BF started kissing me, fondling my boobs through my t-shirt, pushing his hand inside my t-shirt, and pinching my waist. I built up a little courage and touched his pants, feeling his erection through his jeans for the first time. That was the first time I ever felt a male organ. My BF quickly unzipped his jeans and took out his penis. He placed my hand on his penis and slowly pushed my hand up and down. I looked around the theater once more, and finding no one around, I started to jerk his organ. He stiffened completely, closing his eyes, and began to grunt like an animal. Before a minute was over, his penis jerked furiously against my right hand, shooting spurt after spurt of semen on my hand, and on the floor. Having finished, he came to his senses, and cleaned my hand and himself up with his handkerchief. To my surprise, he then unzipped me, and started rubbing my vagina through my panties. It drove me crazy as he kept rubbing my vaginal lips for 10 minutes. Finally, I pushed my panties aside through my zip, and erected him to my clit, asking him to rub it slowly. He started rubbing me slowly as directed, and I had to ask him to pick up the pace. 15 minutes of clit rubbing later, I came hard, burying my face in my BF's shoulder as my clit exploded with a mind-blowing orgasm. Fortunately, the movie was an action movie and no one heard me or my BF. If you are reading this answer, all I want from you is that please help me, if you are able to. Secondly, this answer gonna be long. So, here's my depressing story. Spare me for my English. I'm an Indian, middle class 18 years old boy. To be honest, I do not love my parents, and 101% my mom. Please read further. Back 3 or 4 years ago, my mom was always hesitant to give her phone to anybody. Even now, she even didn't give her phone to me for playing games, not even my father, if he wants to call someone. Once a time, her phone ranged with the name of a lady. Her phone was on bed at that time and mom was in the kitchen. When I was just about to pick up the call, she came hurriedly and picked up the call and said wrong number. This happened many times. I became curious, why is she doing this? There popped a suspicious feeling for her. One day I asked her to give her phone for gaming, and as usual she refused. I came on almost crying mode and finally she gave her phone. I was at no intention to open her WhatsApp, but there were many notification of WhatsApp chats popping. I decided to open WhatsApp and hoping for the best. There it goes. Some female named contact displayed first and profile picture was of male. I scrolled further and further and further, almost all of her contact name were of females, but profile pictures of males. I opened several chats, but almost all were deleted, and only message was hi rest all was deleted, but when I opened one of the chat I was shocked. My mom was asking him of how she looked in some kind of dress and his answer was like, I can't even write this cheap word and explain, but I will try. Bo hot ache, Mazarayaga ap colleen me you looking good. I'm gonna enjoy having sex with you. My mind went blank and my faith in my mom was scattered. Just one question arising out of my mind was why? Why this happened to me? And most importantly, this was not the only one chat point, there were many other similar chats like this. I have all seen this, but my mind was not ready to believe this. Even now I see this kind of chats of my mom. I don't know what to do now. Every time I see my mom I start thinking about this. I think she is prostitute. Wait a minute, don't say me. She is doing for my future and family. My father earns well, she earns well. Both more than 40k a month. I'm always depressed to this. I partly hate my father is because he is an over-aggressive guy. When he is at anger he sees noon and starts using bad words in front of anyone. Nowadays he becomes aggressive even on a minor thing and starts using bad words, but sometimes I feel mercy for him. My mom was being always rude to him. She do not allow my dad to have sex with her. My father is so much frustrated from this. He started fighting over this even in front of me and my 13-year-old sister. I feel ashamed when he does this in front of my sister. There is no such day in our home that goes without fighting. Mom was the one who approached my father to marry her, and now she is the one who is doing these cheap things. Now she have no feeling for my dad. Now my situation is that if I speak relating to this to my father, he will go mad and will kill her. That's my guarantee. I sometimes want to speak up about these things to whom I trust, but there is noon for me now. I'm alone. I want to cry but I can't. I think my heart is becoming stone now. I have no feelings. I just wanted to hug someone I trust and love. And speak these all things. Please understand my feelings and try to help me out. It's my request to you, please. Edit. Thanks all for your love and support. I see there are many good people who wants to help me. Martinus Svoboda and Raid. I'm also sorry for your situation. Hope we could talk and relieve ourselves. If you made it this far, you owe it to yourself to subscribe.